What do you do like in the workday? Like, what are some of the things you do within your workdays to help make sure you don't make, one of those decisions, or you don't, kind of phase out,
I'm a list maker, and my first 5 are the ones that. Have you ever read the book Eat That Frog?
I was going to say Eat the Frog. Yep.
So the worst tasks that I don't want to do, I put them at the top just to get them out of the way. But I am a list maker, and I'm kind of disciplined to make sure I have to finish my list before my head hits that pillow. That's what I do. I don't know.
Yeah, same thing. It's just a matter of what's in my calendar gets done and what's not doesn't. So last night when I was sitting there thinking about my day and doing this podcast, I'm like, okay, there's a couple things I have to do in the morning I don't want to forget, because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that when I get to the office. And then you're like, invariably I get to the office in the morning, I'm like, man, I got nothing to do today. And then around 6, you're like, oh my God, I forgot that task, right? And so last night it was just adding things to my calendar, or it's putting things in ChatGPT and saying, hey, remind me to do this, or do all these things, going back to the agentic mode, do all these things, give me all this stuff, but email it to me at 7 a.m. So you get an email of all of your stuff at 7 a.m. That's going to trigger you to then go do all the work.
Wow, look at that. I'm going to go from my handwritten list to my email from chat after today.
I've got it doing
about that.
Like an alarm and alert with my to-do list that I'll spit out. And my 2 things that I like to do, like you, it's not so much the things I hate. I put my absolutely like the most impactful things up top, kind of to start with, like has to happen. And then I'll go through my to-dos and the things that I can get done quickly, or like usually the shortest task will then go to the top, just so like right away, I'm knocking one thing off, because like, it's like a momentum building kind of a deal for me. Like if it's, send an email or a text or touch base with someone, like, okay, I'm done now. I'm already like that mental checklist of accomplishment and being done. Like it starts the snowball. So I always look for 1 or 2 of those and the top priority, and especially if they're like fairly, not mindless, but not super intense things where I can already be thinking about the other priority. That to me is like a big deal, because those are also the ones that they're very easy to do, but early in the morning too is when the least amount of interruptions happen, right? Because once you get into the day and the phone starts ringing and the appointments start happening, and then those like things that would take you 2 minutes take you 10 if you get interrupted, and someone, so that's like a big thing for me, just building accomplishment. I think going back to, probably my entire life as an athlete, like that's how you build like kind of a routine. You make a layup, miss 3 threes in a row, you go make a layup, see the ball go through the hoop, make a free throw, then you can, and I think that's a big thing. But I did a podcast with a good friend of mine, former teammate, Gus Argenal, who's now the head coach at UC Riverside, and he said something that I've been repeating again, and I think it's not necessarily a new statement, but it's like the greatest, kind of determinant of success is your self-awareness. And in all of this, it's like recognizing what your real habits are. I think a lot of us, not all of us, have to go through the journey of being real about where we fall short and why, and what our problems are. And there are people that are struggling to be successful that I would venture to guess there's a lack of self-awareness and a real honest look at why, that because they're not doing it, they can't change their habits to be successful. What do you guys think about that process, and how do you try to help people figure that part out? Because that to me is the only way for them to become successful versus external motivation.
Totally agree. I think a lot has to do with, they say, the 5 people that you hang around. And those 5 people have to be honest, true friends that tell you what you don't want to hear. And I'm very lucky in that my friends are very honest with me and tell me my shortcomings. And I do think for this year, one of my shortcomings is I'm not intentional with my inner circle and my friends. I kind of put them on the back burner and put work first. And I need to like reverse that. And they've told me that. So I think that the 5 people that you hang around in 2026 need to be at a higher level than yourself if you're going to grow. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think from a leadership standpoint, it's always kind of one hand up and one hand down. Right? So I need to be around people, have coaches, those kinds of things that are going to help pull me to that next level. And then, but from a team leader standpoint, I'm also got one hand down saying, if you want to come with me, grab on, I'll bring you along, but you got to take the action of grabbing the hand too. And I think, again, it goes back to just starting small. Even if maybe there's 10 things that you need to do, let's put 2 or 3 of them on your calendar for tomorrow. Maybe we put one, back to one video a week, right? And still planning it in your day. But one of the things that I do when I do get in is I take whatever's in my calendar and write it out in my planner. Because psychologically, to what you were saying, when you check that thing off or when you physically put a line through it, it tells your brain, great, we're doing positive things and we're accomplishing things. We get that hit and it says, okay, let's do more of that.
Yep.
Right? And so it's a matter of saying, okay, let's put these things in your calendar so that you start your day off tomorrow with them. Maybe you have ambitions of making 100 phone calls. Let's start with 25. 25 calls by 9 a.m., right? You're probably going to make another 25, right? Because it's always the first call that's the toughest. It's not the second or the 25th or whatever. So let's just have small incremental goals that we can build on to then create those habits to where it just becomes automatic that when you get in, you do this. When you do this, it's just like we do with the automation of everything. When this happens, this happens. Well, when I make 25 calls, my opportunity increases to have conversations. When I have conversations, my opportunity increases to have meetings, right? And so on and so forth. But the only thing stopping that is not having conversations. So put it in the calendar, do the little things, and then build on it from there.
I love that. Well, my personal summation of everything the two of you are saying and my belief system with every great coach I've ever been around and what I strive to do is really what I think makes great leaders, right? Is great leaders simplify what others complicate.
Yep.
And
100%.
That's ultimately, and so if I'm that type of a leader, I'm helping people create things that they can act upon, right? Think, act, do. I've simplified it. I've given you something to act on. Now you've got to take that step. You've got to get that hit of accomplishing it to build the momentum. And far too often, the inability to do that is what creates that break in leaders and teams. And I think we are always at our best when we have someone coaching us and when we are coaching others for all the different balancing components that it provides.